The second seizure, one canal, two superpowers, 12% of global trade changes hands overnight. May 3rd, 2026, 09:04 Cairo time, Egyptian president announces emergency address to the nation. The subject sends shockwaves before he speaks. Suez Canal Authority, full nationalization, immediate effect. Not the first time Egypt seized the canal. That was 1956. Different world, different crisis. This time the stakes are higher. This time China is involved. President's statement is direct. Egypt reclaims full sovereign control over current pricing undervalues Egypt's strategic asset. New rates, 300% increase across all vessel categories. That's not a negotiation. That's a unilateral declaration. Suez Canal Authority currently charges average $300,000 per vessel transit. Some larger ships pay $700,000. Under new pricing, $900,000 minimum, up to $2.1 million for largest vessels. Shipping companies receiving notifications immediately. New rates effective. The immediate reaction. Washington responds within 90 minutes. State Department statement. Unilateral changes to Suez Canal management violate international agreements. United States does not recognize Chinese authority over global waterways. We demand immediate reversal. The language is strong. The leverage is weak. Because Egypt is sovereign. The canal is Egyptian territory. International law is clear. Nations control their own waterways. Montreux Convention governs Turkish straits. Panama Canal returned to Panamanian control in 1999. Suez Canal belongs to Egypt. They can manage it however they choose. Europe scrambles. Emergency EU meeting convened. France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, all dependent on Suez transit. French president calls Cairo, offered, ignored. German chancellor threatens sanctions. Egypt points to $40 billion Chinese loans and asks who will cover them. Italy suggests NATO intervention. Nobody wants to invade Egypt over canal fees. United Kingdom reviews options. Royal Navy could escort vessels through, but escort doesn't change transit fees, and military posturing risks closing the canal entirely. Israel watches nervously. Suez Canal is strategic buffer, keeps Iranian and Chinese naval vessels distant from Mediterranean. Now Beijing has management role. Chinese warships could receive priority transit. Israeli submarines tracked by Chinese systems. Tel Aviv calculates military implications. All bad. Saudi Arabia and UAE issue statements supporting Egypt's sovereign rights. But privately, they're concerned. Chinese control over Suez shifts regional power balance. Gulf states suddenly vulnerable to economic pressure from Beijing. Russia stays quiet. Moscow likes anything that disrupts Western supply chains. Chinese control over Suez creates leverage against Europe. Kremlin approves. Who controls this waterway? A. Egypt as sovereign nation. B. China as 25% stakeholder. C. Both and neither the West. Right now, answer is C, and that's unacceptable to Washington and Brussels. The economic cascade. First 24 hours, chaos. Maersk announces temporary operational adjustments. MSC suspends new bookings pending rate review. CMA-CGM calculates rerouting costs. Mediterranean Shipping Company projects $800 million annual cost increase. That's passed to customers. Container shipping rates spike 40% on Europe-Asia routes within hours. Suez Canal transits 12% of global trade. $1 trillion worth of goods annually. New fees add $18 billion to global shipping costs per year. Those costs flow downstream. European retailers face higher import prices. Asian manufacturers calculate export cost increases. American companies dependent on Suez routing reassess supply chains. Oil markets react. 6 million barrels per day transit Suez northbound. Crude from Gulf states to Europe. New transit fees add $40 per barrel in shipping costs. Brent crude jumps $7 in early trading. Natural gas follows. LNG tankers from Qatar to Europe face tripled transit fees. European gas prices spiked 22% in 48 hours. Winter is 8 months away, but markets panic now. According to shipping industry analysis, 30% of vessels will attempt rerouting. That's 6,600 ships annually choosing Cape of Good Hope over Suez. Journey time increases 14 days average. Fuel consumption doubles. Carbon emissions increase 40%, all to avoid Chinese-controlled Chokepoint. Insurance companies recalculate. War risk premiums don't apply. No war declared. But geopolitical risk premiums do. Coverage costs increase 85% for Suez transits. Some underwriters withdraw coverage entirely. Too much uncertainty. South Africa sees opportunity. Cape Town Port announces expansion plans. If 30% of Suez traffic reroutes, Cape ports gain massive business. Durban and Port Elizabeth prepare for increased traffic. The maritime trade map is redrawing in real time. Red Sea Doctrine principle. Control the choke point, control the economy. China just gained choke point control without firing a shot. The strategic implications. Pentagon convenes Indo-Pacific Command briefing. Subject: Chinese control over Suez Canal. Naval implications. U.S. 6th Fleet transits Suez regularly. Carrier groups, destroyers, supply vessels. Now every transit monitored by Chinese systems. Operational security compromised. Alternative routes exist around Africa, through Arctic as ice melts. But both add weeks to deployment timelines. Suez provides rapid access between Atlantic and Indo-Pacific theaters. Losing that access degrades force projection. Worse, what if Egypt closes canal to U.S. military vessels? Sovereign right. Happened before in 1956. Could happen again. Suddenly, U.S. naval strategy has massive vulnerability. NATO shares concern. European members depend on Suez for Middle East operations. French carrier Charles de Gaulle transits regularly. UK carriers conducting Indo-Pacific deployments. Italian naval vessels supporting Mediterranean operations. All potentially subject to Chinese surveillance or Egyptian denial. China gains strategic intelligence, every vessel size, speed, cargo capacity, weapons systems, radar signatures, all recorded during transit. That data feeds into PLA Navy targeting systems, improves anti-ship missile accuracy, enhances submarine tracking. One canal providing intelligence on entire Western fleet movements. The asymmetry is striking. China invested $40 billion in Egyptian infrastructure. Return on investment, 25% control of canal generating $6 billion annually in fees, plus strategic intelligence worth far more. That's $40 billion buying leverage over $1 trillion annual trade, and insight into Western naval operations. Textbook strategic investment. Reports indicate Chinese technicians already en route to Suez Canal Authority headquarters, bringing management systems, surveillance equipment, communications infrastructure. Within weeks, Chinese technology monitors every transit. Beijing doesn't need to control Egypt, just needs to control the data. Is this the start of Chinese dominance over global choke points? Comment Y or N. The diplomatic scramble. May 5th, U.S. Secretary of State arrives in Cairo. Emergency meetings, offers on table, debt relief, military aid, infrastructure investment, anything to reverse the nationalization. Egyptian negotiators listen politely, then decline. Why? Because Washington can't match Beijing's offer. $40 billion is real money, plus ongoing infrastructure support, plus technology transfer, plus political backing at UN. China provides without demanding democratic reforms, without human rights conditions, without regime change threats. Egypt chose the partner that doesn't lecture. May 7th, EU delegation meets President Sisi. They offer trade agreements, market access, development funds. Estimate 25 billion over 10 years. Egypt counters make it 60 billion upfront. EU can't. Budgets don't allow. Political opposition domestically. Brussels can't compete with Beijing's state-directed investment. Meanwhile, ships continue transiting, paying new fees, grumbling, but paying because alternatives are worse. Rerouting costs more than tripled fees. Delay costs exceed transit costs. So shipping companies pay, and China collects 25% of every fee. Israel attempts back-channel diplomacy, offers intelligence sharing, military cooperation. Egypt considers. But ultimately, $40 billion debt matters more than intelligence arrangements. Saudi Arabia and UAE float bailout proposal. They'll cover Egypt's Chinese debt if Egypt reverses nationalization. Egypt calculates Chinese debt comes with infrastructure, technology, ongoing partnership. Saudi bailout comes with obligations, regional politics, pressure to take sides in Yemen, Iran tensions, less attractive than it seems. May 12th, Egypt rejects Saudi offer. Nationalization stands. Chinese partnership continues. The canal remains under new management. What breaks next? Western supply chains, NATO deployability, or the illusion that economic leverage beats debt leverage? The new reality, June 2026. New transit procedures in effect. Vessels submit applications 72 hours in advance. Chinese manufactured monitoring systems track every ship. Automated identification systems upgraded with Beijing technology. Transit time slightly faster. Chinese management improves efficiency, but every vessel's data flows to servers in Shanghai. European Commission launches investigation into Suez Canal management changes. Determines Egypt violated no laws. Sovereign nations control territorial waterways. Investigation closes. No action taken. U.S. 6th Fleet conducts first post-nationalization Suez transit. No incidents. Professional process. But every sensor reading, every communication potentially monitored. Operational security officers note concerns. Future transits require encryption upgrades. Some shipping companies permanently reroute. Tesla moves some Asia-Europe supply chains to Cape Route. Apple diversifies logistics. Amazon adjusts delivery timelines. The 30% rerouting prediction proves accurate. 6,400 vessels annually bypass Suez. Cape Town port revenue increases 340%. South African economy receives unexpected boost. Egypt's canal revenue actually increases despite fewer transits. Higher fees offset volume loss, plus Chinese efficiency improvements. 2026 canal revenue, $9.2 billion, up from $6.3 billion in 2025. Egypt's economy stabilizes. Chinese investment continues. Belt and road infrastructure projects accelerate. Cairo's new subway system, Red Sea ports, high-speed rail to Alexandria, all Chinese built, all debt financed, all creating deeper dependency. The model works for Egypt. Massive infrastructure, economic growth, stable government. The cost, strategic autonomy. But sovereignty is negotiable when debt is real. The doctrine lesson. Red Sea Doctrine teaches infrastructure debt converts to strategic control. China perfected this model globally. Pakistan's Gwadar port, Sri Lanka's Hambantota, Greece's Piraeus, now Egypt's Suez Canal. The pattern is consistent. Offer massive loans, build infrastructure, wait for debt service problems, convert debt to equity, gain strategic control. No military invasion required, no regime change, just patient capital and long-term thinking. The West offers less money with more conditions. China offers more money with fewer conditions. Developing nations choose China, then discover conditions were always there. Just different kind, not democracy requirements, control requirements. Suez nationalization marks shift in global power, not military power, economic power. China doesn't need aircraft carriers in Mediterranean. They own 25% of the canal those carriers transit through. That's more effective than forward basing. The long game. 2 years from now, 3 years, 5 years. Chinese percentage in Suez Canal Authority increases. Debt for equity swaps continue. Eventually, Beijing could control majority stake. Then decisions about canal management shift to Shanghai. Which vessels get priority? Chinese commercial ships. Which warships transit smoothly? PLA Navy vessels. Which nations face delays? Those in dispute with Beijing. The canal becomes leverage in unrelated negotiations. Taiwan tensions. Delay U.S. naval transits through Suez. Trade disputes. Increase fees on European vessels. China Sea incidents. Slow NATO deployments. One choke point. Infinite applications. This is 21st century geopolitics. Not about territory conquest. About infrastructure control. Not about military dominance. About economic leverage. China understands this. Egypt needed capital. China provided. Now both benefit. Everyone else adapts. Will other nations follow Egypt's model? Will more choke points fall under Chinese control? Will the West develop competitive infrastructure financing? These questions define the next decade. Subscribe to Red Sea Doctrine, where sea power decides everything. The next canal, the next port, the next choke point, all potentially available to highest bidder. Understanding maritime power means understanding who controls the passage. Stay informed, stay ahead. Red Sea Doctrine, trade routes, missiles, and war, but mostly debt and infrastructure.